This is a show about jewelry, why we wear it, why it matters, how it's made, and what it means. I'm Alex D, and I turn cannabis into gold. I make mind-blowing jewelry in gold, silver, and platinum from cannabis plants here in Canada for stage, screen, for people who want to rock crazy jewelry. I'm the Cannabis Goldsmith. Hey, Happy New Year, everyone. It's New Year's Day, and I'm recording a podcast here. It's our 100th episode. I can't believe it. 100 episodes of the Cannabis Goldsmith, a show about art, jewelry, and design, coming from my studio here in Upper Canada along the St. Lawrence River, right next to the United States, sort of near Ogdensburg. That's where I am. And I've put this show out now for 100 episodes every Wednesday. You know, I did it at first as a challenge to myself to see if I could do it. Actually, I did it for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to train myself to talk on a microphone. I wanted to be extremely comfortable talking with a set of headphones on into a microphone. And if you've not done it before, it's difficult to do it first. But after you've done it for a number of hours, it becomes easier and easier. So this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to launch this podcast, not only to do the podcast, but I wanted to learn by doing and learn how to record audio, good, clean audio. So that's what I've done. And 100 episodes, I said to myself, after 100 episodes, I'm going to just pack it in. That's it. I'll move on to another project. But I've been thinking about this for the last week. Well, since the last episode, I've been thinking, should I keep going? Should I keep going with this podcast? Shall I go into a second season of another 100 episodes? And if so, what should I do with it? How will it change, or won't it, or whatever? So over the last week, over Christmas week, really, I've been thinking about what I should do with this podcast and what I can do with it, and going into the new year, or whether I should or not even. But here's the thing. I've grown to like doing this podcast. It's not only about you guys who are listening to it, but it's about me too. And I've loved doing it every Wednesday. It's not, when I get up in the morning, I want to do the podcast. I do. And I'm excited to record it. It's not I get up on Wednesday morning and, I got to record the podcast. Oh, God. No. I love it. I love talking to this microphone now. And I love describing what's going on here in this area, or whatever is happening in the studio that I'm trying to do or not do or whatever. So I think I'm going to keep going with this podcast, but I'm going to tighten it up a little, and I'll tell you how I'm going to tighten it up a little. I'm going to try. When I launched it, there was no format. There's just no format. I just thought it'll go wherever it goes. So, but now I'm going to do a little formatting. So I'm going to have an intro, and then a middle and an end part. So that's the extent of the formatting. It's not going to be scripted. I thought I might do interviews with other artists or jewelers, but you know what? I'm not really interested in that just yet. Soon, maybe, if I run across one, if one is coming past the studio here, I'll talk to them and record it. But I really have no desire to talk to try and create some kind of to create a show out of someone else's art just yet. I don't know if I have the capacity to do that. I can do it with my own art. And I thought about this whole week how I myself listen to podcasts, and that has changed over the last year as well. I've dropped some podcasts I was a long time listener to, because my tastes have changed, as yours do. I mean, you might get bored with this and leave and go somewhere else, or not, or whatever. I can't deal or control any of that stuff. You either listen or you don't. But the podcast has to be there in order for somebody to listen to it. It's like the lottery ticket thing, right? You can't win unless you buy a ticket. So this is where the podcast is for its kind of its shape, right? But I'm going to tighten it up. I'm going to put, first off, we have our opening tag, audio tag, and then there'll be an intro of a story. I think maybe I'll do like news, jewelry news, and art news. Maybe not art news. Maybe I'll focus it more on jewelry. Then a middle part, and then an end part. So I'll have like the middle part will be the meat of the podcast, and then the end part will close it out. So that's the loose general shape of the next 100 episodes. Now, I might interview people. I really want to go to Europe this summer, maybe, and go see some jewelers in Paris and talk to them and see what they think about design and stuff. And maybe there's one jeweler in the UK that I want to talk to who is amazing. I like a lot. I'm a big fan of Ming. Talk to her and see if I can get an interview with her. But for the most part, this is like a IRL, in real life podcast coming out of an artist studio. I mean, the podcastosphere is big enough for everything. Now, the shows I listen to, like I say, my tastes have changed over the last year. I've done some things this year that I never thought I could do. First off, I got off of Instagram. I've just removed myself from it. That when I 5 years ago, when we launched into the cannabis sector with our jewelry products, it was like, okay, I have to be on Instagram. I have to be there all the time. This is the only way people will hear about us. And you know what? It's just like the hamster wheel. You felt it. You felt this hamster wheel of social media, that you're producing content for Mark Zuckerberg and not for yourself, or not for your fans or your clients or people who are interested. You have to produce it for him. So that just had less and less appeal to me. Really, no appeal. So that's why I haven't been on Instagram in months and months and months. And there's no withdrawal symptoms or anything, I got to tell you. Instagram sucks. All those social media channels suck. So I'm predominantly going to use the podcast as a vehicle to just, to talk about what we're doing here in Canada with our jewelry products. It's a marketing tool for us, but also it's an alternative to social media. Still, it is a little bit of an alternative to social media, podcasting. So it's a very crowded space, and our show, the Cannabis Goldsmith, we're in the top 50 jewelry podcasts on the planet. But I mean, there are probably only 50 jewelry podcasts on the planet, I guess. But anyway, this year, the goal with the podcast is to tighten it up just a little, not too much, because I'm an artist, right? I'm a creative person, and I don't want to have a structured freaking format every week because that's boring. It's boring. I think it's boring. So this will be more resembling my studio space, this podcast. It'll be like a few things over there, some things over here, kind of a little bit of dust in the corner, but perpetually trying to keep it neat and tidy. So that's how the podcast is going to work this year, the structure of it. But anyway, now that we're done that, my New Year's resolutions, that was the resolution. Is just I'm going to grow the podcast, and slowly. And the thing is, I don't have to have advertising on it. I'm just doing this. There's no sense here, no need for me to monetize this. That's not the purpose of this podcast. Is not to generate revenue. It's to generate interest in our products and to talk about and to help me process all the shit that goes down in the studio here as I'm trying to invent new designs and new ideas. That's what it's about. It's not about some like audio marketing thing, Anyway. But hey, there's that's the plan for the new year. It's been a hell of a year, you know. I besides from the 100 podcasts, I made some amazing belt buckles this year. I still haven't photographed them to put on the website. I've been neglecting some things this year, but putting my brain in other areas. I learned something amazing this year from Mark Andreessen. Now, if you don't know who I've learned in my life, I've learned couple of things from Mark Andreessen. So I want to put a big thank you out to Mark Andreessen first off, for inventing the web browser back in the day that I used to build our early web pages. I kind of used the web browser itself to build the early web pages of Tribe magazine on the internet. So I kind of reverse engineered his software to write HTML code. Anyway, that was the first thing, but that was so long ago. But this other thing I learned from him is just a small thing that anybody can learn. You go through life and something has really bothered you your whole life, or really it's like it's a character flaw that you have or you think you have. And with me, it's procrastination. I fucking hate procrastination, yet I seem to do it. As we all do. I've read books on how to get over it. I've had therapy years ago. I was talking to therapists about how do I get over it. Nobody seemed to have any kind of solution to procrastination. So consequently, I had the desire to change my behavior or character around the procrastination, but I had no way to do it. I just didn't know how to do it. And things got left by the wayside. Now, as I've become older, I've become better at doing things I set to my mind to doing. But maybe that's because I'm being more selective in what I choose to do. But still, those of us who procrastinate understand that it's not only the not doing, it's the feeling like shit because you haven't done it, right? It's the guilt that, oh my God, I haven't done my taxes. Oh my God, I haven't done this or that or the other thing, and I should do it. And the shoulding is when you should yourself like that. That's the guilt, and I should have done that, and I should have done this, and the procrastination. But back to Mark Andreessen. I read this quote from him that changed it reframed my whole thing about procrastination. Now, Mark, before I give this to you, I want to say Mark Andreessen is not somebody that I particularly like these days. I don't know, like where he's gone from the earliest days of inventing the web browser or whatever to this fucking character he is, this conehead character he is now. I just particularly didn't like him. But then I saw this quote, and the quote was, I'm just roughly paraphrasing here. It's like procrastination is like, the time do something else. If you're not doing this thing, you're procrastinating. Just while you're not doing that, do something else. It's that simple. It's like, okay, you while you're not doing your taxes, you could be washing the car, or you can be doing some other chore or task. And often we do these other things in order to prevent us from doing the one thing that we have to do. So what Andreessen is saying here is like, okay, follow the flow and do the other shit. Okay, so you're not doing your taxes today, but you're actually cleaning the house. You're cooking a nice meal. You're washing the windows. All the other shit that you're doing to avoid doing your taxes. And this is good. This is actually good. This is stuff you're doing, right? Now, another person might not want to clean the house, right? They're procrastinating that, but they'll be like right on top of their taxes. But that's the whole gist of it. The whole gist of it if you're not doing the task, you're doing other stuff. And so don't worry about the task. Do the other stuff while you're waiting to do the task. So you're accomplishing your goal. You're accomplishing goals. You're clearing the decks. You're doing stuff that you wouldn't do, right? In order to avoid doing what you need to do. Anyway, so I learned that from Mark Andreessen. So that was a big lesson I learned last year. When I have this sense that I'm not doing something, I'm going to double down on doing other shit. And I'll get more done. And I have done that. And I am getting more done because of it. It's a mental trick, if you want. A reframing of procrastination. So thank you, Mark Andreessen, you conehead. Now, the other thing I want to talk about today is the big jewelry burglary in London. Now, and also the other jewelry robberies that are happening in retail around the world, and a lot in Canada now, in Toronto and in the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, so outside Toronto. We've seen it happen in California and in New York. There's photos of these gangs going into jewelry stores with hammers and smashing shit up, and these smash and grab things. And I'm sort of, I've seen this all happen before, in South Africa. When South Africa went into the 90s, this kind of thing, the 80s into the 90s, this kind of thing was happening in the cities in South Africa. And they developed strategies to deal with it. So I'm going to describe some of what they did. So if you're a jewelry retailer, you'll maybe get some ideas from this. But anyway, about the big robbery in London, there was a burglary on Avenue Road, and it was apparently one of the richest kind of areas of London, and somebody broke into this woman's house, climbed in through a second floor window, and stole a bunch of jewelry. And some of the pieces that were stolen are just amazing, like incredible. There is a very large Van Cleef sapphire and diamond platinum necklace. It's just quite incredible. It's something that you might see on a queen or it's very, very Van Cleef, big sapphires, very high quality stones. Now this was stolen, and but there's another piece that I like better that was stolen. It's a Boucheron. Some sites are saying it's a bracelet, but it's not. It looks like a collar of platinum and rectangular and round brilliant diamonds, and a big kind of emerald cut emerald right in the middle of this. And it looks like a collar, and I think that's what it is. If it's a collar, it's serious piece of jewelry. Well, I'll put a link in the show notes so you'll be able to see off one of these news sites what these pieces look like. So there were also some handbags stolen and stuff. But the one thing, this Boucheron piece, I hope whoever stole it doesn't take it apart and sell it as pieces, because it's just the amount of work that went into this. It's just like, I'm looking at it now, I'm thinking, holy fuck, that's an incredible piece of jewelry. Like, wow. But the thing I found interesting about this whole story is that the woman who owned this stuff, these high-end pieces, there were rings, there was a 10-carat diamond, there was a 3-carat Hermes ring, there were all these like tacky watches with like micro pave diamond setting around it, and like tacky handbags and stuff. But the thing about it is this woman, Shafira Wang, who owned these things. She refers to herself as a cultural ambassador. Like, what the hell is a cultural ambassador? Like, as a career? Like, how do I become a cultural ambassador? She's associated with the Halcyon Gallery on Bond Street in London, and this is a gallery that has these huge like David Hockney pieces and like just big money art stuff, right? And she's the cultural ambassador of this gallery. Now I'm wondering this is all speculation, because since I have no idea I've never heard of this job before. I'm just speculating what it might be, but I'm thinking it might be a marketing job to get rich people into the gallery to buy art. I think fundamentally that's maybe what it is. But if you can make that much money to buy these pieces, like, holy shit, maybe I'm in the wrong business. But anyway, I hope they recover these pieces. Some of them are incredible works, like the Boucheron pieces. The Van Cleef pieces also, but it's less interesting to me because I like the Boucheron design better. Nevertheless, these things are out there, and so I suggest look at the link, and if someone approaches you with them and you're in the industry and they want you to take them apart and sell them, I suggest you contact the London Police Department, because these items are stolen. Anyway, now, how are retail jewelers going to become safer from these smash and grab things? Well, let me talk about the lessons from South Africa. Now, in South Africa, as the economy started tanking in the early 90s, the late 80s and early 90s, and the economy was really going down. And this was, I guess, the political changes in South Africa. The economy was unsettled, and there were so many people without jobs that people started robbing, and then the crime rate started going up huge, and then people started investing in private security because the police couldn't cope with it all, and so it became this thing where, I had a home there for a while. My parents lived there for a while, and people would be putting up electric fences around their properties, and armed to the teeth, all of them armed, like fully armed, like with automatic weapons, and to protect their homes and families. And businesses, it would be quite common to see in businesses, not jewelry businesses either. Like you would go into like a bar, even like at times it would be like a restaurant, and you'd have to go through a door where there would be two doors. You'd go into this one vestibule area, and a grate would close behind you, and they'd check you over and decide whether they want to let you into the restaurant. And then they could just lock it. Like if you were some criminal, they could lock you in the entryway, and you'd never get into the restaurant or store. And the South Africans developed this technology of keeping the customer in this area, in this glass cage, before they even get into the store, in order to check them out and see if they were carrying guns, or if they looked suspicious, or that. But the other thing is if they robbed the place once they got in, they could never get out, because they could just lock them in this glassed-in area, or barred off area. Now, after a while, in South Africa, the crime was escalating, and there was so many guns. There's so many guns in the country that people would do these armed robberies. They'd come into whatever restaurant, jewelry stores were hit repeatedly. So the jewelry stores, like we have here in Canada, were spread all around. They'd be in different parts of town, or they would be in different parts of a mall. But what began happening was, in malls, for example, all the high-end jewelry places would go into one area of a mall. They all moved from the scattered around the mall into one more secure area. And in this more secure area, you would find like the people selling Omega watches and gems and jewelry, and the very high-end stuff would be in this one section of the mall. And the one section of the mall would be the most difficult section to get to or get out of. And then it would have higher security camera per square foot. It would have everything would be bulletproof glassed, and the whole area. Then there would be people with armed guards inside the shops, and then people wandering the mall with guns, right, just to protect the shops and the people entering the mall. And even in spite of all this kind of sterile condition where you'd have like this little corner of the mall would be like high security, and this is where all the jewelry would be, and still they would try to rob these stores, and it would be nearly impossible because if they got in, they'd never get out, right? And it would be like layers of locking doors in order to get out of the mall. It would be just too tough. So they developed this strategy, and it's still there now, even there now. Although the tension is well, I was in South Africa. Last time I was there was a few years ago, but the tension had come down. But at the sort of in the end of the 80s, it was really it was scary. Even just going for a pizza in a restaurant, you'd have to go through these fucking security grates and shit. And I think that's what it's going to become here now, especially in Canada with all these smash and grabs. The only way to protect a smash and grab is to do what I just described, to create these mazes, these areas where it's hard to get in and hard to get out, and high levels of security, armed security around this stuff. But none of this does any good for the marketing of jewelry products, really. I mean, in a sense, it creates this impression that the stuff is really valuable. But on the other hand, it might be too valuable, right? We want jewelry that's accessible, even for rich people who can afford this kind of stuff, this kind of super high-end Boucheron stuff. Like, they have to be able to buy it somewhere, I suppose. And with these smash and grabs in retail jewelers, these guys they're going after 10-karat gold rings, which are not like anything, really. The time would be they'll get in jail is going to be much more than the value they get out of reselling, wedding bands. So I don't know, but anyway, retail jewelers are going to have to be more worried about the placement of their retail shops and how they're constructed in order to prevent these smash and grabs. That's all I'm saying here. And a way to do that is to go to South Africa and see how they're doing it, because they've survived this kind of stuff for a long time. 2025. My God. Well, this year, where I'm going, what I'm doing, I'm going to make a seed bong out of sterling silver and 18 karat gold this year. I've got seeds. I've got some ideas. And what I'm going to do is make it'll be more of an art piece. This is going to be a sculpture, but it'll be functional too. So it'll be seeds going around the outside of a bong in sterling silver with the occasional 18 karat gold seed put into it. And it'll fit a standard nail, a glass nail. We'll be able to drop right in. Or if you use one of our custom made 24 karat gold emperor nails, that'll drop in there too. So you'll be able to use it with whatever you have on hand, and yet it'll be an amazing small bong made out of sterling silver cannabis seeds. I bet you can't even envision that, hey? Well, I can, and that's next on the bench. Also, this year, I'm starting to digitize the enormous Tribe magazine collection. I start this month, and I've got a digitization room built. I did that this year. I raised the money to build it, and I've done that. And I've accomplished so much. I keep battering myself, saying, "Oh, I didn't do that much this year," but I did a lot this year. I have to keep reminding myself that I built this digitization suite. I raised the money to buy the gear. I put in some money myself. I built it. It's ready to go. I just have to update the software, some quick software updates, and boom, it's ready. And then I start photographing the old slides of Tribe magazine from the 1990s. I'm going to store the digital files. I'm going to match the, I've got a notebook, a lined notebook, and I'm going to write down the number on the slide, number on the notebook, number on the digital file, and it'll all match, and that'll keep a kind of a congruency through the whole process. So if I have to go back and redo something, I can find the slide and re-scan it, or scan it at a higher resolution for like a big blow up or something. But anyway, that's what I'm going to do starting this month. It's going to take 5 years to do that, I think. I've allowed myself 5 years. So it's big. It's daunting. But I'm going to do it. And we'll see it. At the end of this year, God willing, if I'm still alive, we'll measure the progress. All right, that's it for me this New Year's Day. I think I might go for breakfast somewhere, if somewhere's open down here. We have the diners here they're just, I don't know, I just found a place that was great for breakfast, another place, and it's shut, closed. This is the second place. I'm a huge fan of going for breakfast at a diner, and then they just close. I just don't understand. We need a diner that serves breakfast. I've got a diner down the street, this amazing diner. Looks like it's something out of the 1960s. They don't even serve breakfast. Like every diner has to serve breakfast. So anyway, that's the scoop. I'm going to go find breakfast on this New Year's Day and start getting ready to design the seed pipe, and knuckle under for the digitization and the scanning of the Tribe Magazine photography collection. The Cannabis Goldsmith is produced by Tribe Communications, Inc. in the Thousand Islands area of Ontario, Canada. You can see what we do at tribe.ca. Send us an email, alexd@cannabisgoldsmith.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week on the Cannabis Goldsmith.